I never thought I'd be 34, divorced, and living in a second-floor apartment that smells faintly of dust and paperbacks. But here I am, perched above Crescent Books, a sleepy little shop that sells more coffee than novels, and more comfort than either. The floor creaks when I walk to the kitchen. The heater clicks like it's still making up its mind, and the view from the window, maple trees and cracked sidewalks, is quiet in a way that makes the silence feel whole. I moved into this apartment on a rainy Tuesday afternoon last October, 3 weeks after I signed the final papers in a Boston courthouse and exactly 1 month after I buried my mother. It still feels strange to say those things out loud, that I'm divorced, that mom is gone, that I've left behind everything I built for over a decade. But maybe that's what life does. Maybe it knocks you down in pairs and dares you to stand up again. The landlord, Mrs. Harper, is a widowed librarian in her 70s who believes in hardbound books and hot tea. She gave me the key along with a jar of homemade apple butter. "This place has good bones," she said. "Just needs someone to love it." I guess I was hoping the same thing could be said about me. Mornings start early now. The cafe I work at, Common Ground, opens at 7 sharp, and I usually get there by 6:30. It's a 10-minute walk down leafy streets that smell like wet pavement and pine needles in the fall. The air is cool even in late August, and if you catch it just right, you can see your breath in the mornings. I tie my apron in the back room, tuck my hair into a loose bun, and start the espresso machine while the lights flicker on. It's not glamorous, but there's something healing in the rhythm of it. Steam hissing, cups clinking, milk frothing into little galaxies. I used to be a graphic designer. Big firm. Good salary, health insurance, a window office I barely looked out of. I spent my days choosing fonts for corporate rebrands and color schemes for toothpaste companies. I was good at it. But after the layoffs came and after mom got sick, I stopped being good at a lot of things. I stopped sleeping, stopped drawing, stopped remembering what it was like to laugh for real. I met Nick, my ex-husband, in college. He was studying architecture. I was still figuring things out. We moved in together after graduation and got married in a courthouse with no guests and a bottle of cheap champagne. It wasn't a grand love, but it was a solid one. Predictable. Safe. Until it wasn't. We tried therapy. Tried long talks on Sunday mornings. But in the end we realized we wanted different things. He wanted a second child. I wanted to breathe again. To feel something outside the edges of routine. When I told him I needed space, he gave me distance. When I said I needed to leave, he let me go. It was almost too kind. Like we were already strangers. Asheville is the kind of place people move to when they're looking for something, peace, purpose, or just a cheaper rent. It has this slow charm that grows on you. Locals wear flannel in the summer and no one minds if you bring your dog into the coffee shop. The mountains loom in the distance like quiet guardians. I find myself staring at them sometimes when I'm on my break, coffee cup in hand, wondering what it would be like to hike to the top and just keep walking. My therapist in Boston once said I had unresolved grief layered over chronic dissatisfaction. I think that's code for being tired of pretending. It was a Tuesday when I first saw him again. I was wiping down the front counter around 9:30. The rush had ended and the cafe had settled into its lull. 2 students hunched over laptops, one old man reading the paper, and soft jazz trickling from the speakers. The bell over the door jingled. I looked up, more out of habit than curiosity, and then froze mid-wipe. It was Eli Walker. I hadn't seen Eli in 15 years. Not since high school, not since the summer before we all went our separate ways. He looked older, of course. Broader in the shoulders, deeper in the eyes. His hair was shorter now, still dark, but streaked with silver at the temples. He wore a denim jacket and carried a worn leather messenger bag slung across his chest. Our eyes met, and for a moment, I wasn't sure if he recognized me. Then slowly, his mouth curved into the same crooked smile I remembered from that last night by the lake, the one where we'd both said nothing we meant and everything we didn't. "Emily Carter," he said, his voice deeper, familiar and strange all at once. "Hey," I managed, setting the cloth down. "Didn't expect to see you in Asheville." He laughed softly. "Didn't expect to be here. But here I am. What brings you?" "Work. And life, I guess." We stood there, awkward and hesitant, like people who once knew everything about each other and now didn't know where to begin. "I make a mean cappuccino," I offered. "Then I'll take one," he said. "To go. For now." I didn't sleep much that night. Not because of Eli exactly, but because of everything he brought with him, memories I thought I'd boxed up for good. That last summer before college. The way we'd kissed under the fireworks. The way I'd left without calling. He was the first boy I ever really loved. And I ruined it. Or maybe we both did. I thought about asking Mrs. Harper if she knew he was back in town. She knows everyone. But something stopped me. Maybe I didn't want it to be a thing. Maybe I just wanted to keep it in the small space of my own mind, where the past couldn't spill over and make a mess of the present. But life has a way of not staying tidy. And Eli Walker wasn't going to stay a memory, he was real. Back in town. And holding a cappuccino with my name on it. The next time I saw Eli, it was raining. Thick, southern rain that fell sideways and soaked you before you even found your keys. I was locking up the cafe. Hoodie pulled over my head when I heard a voice behind me. Still making mean cappuccinos? I turned. There he was, holding a broken umbrella and laughing like he hadn't just appeared out of nowhere again. His jeans were soaked to the knees, his jacket darker with rain. Still drinking them too fast to appreciate, I replied, fumbling with the lock. He grinned. Touché. We ended up at the bookstore downstairs. Mrs. Harper had already closed, but she kept a pot of herbal tea going in the back, and if you knocked twice and looked like you needed something warm, she'd open the door. She did that night. We sat in the reading nook, sipping mismatched mugs of chamomile, rain tapping the windows like it had something to say. So, I said after a long pause, you're back in Asheville. Looks that way. For good. He shrugged. Not sure. I took a remote job with an architecture firm based in Charlotte. My lease here is short-term. And after that? I guess it depends. He looked at me like he was asking something without words. On how it feels being back. I nodded. Feels weird for me too. We didn't say much after that. The quiet stretched, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like a porch light left on, a kind of welcome. That weekend I went through a box of my old drawings, the ones I packed away when life got too loud for art. They smelled like time. A little dusty, a little like ink in youth. I found a sketch of Eli I'd drawn when we were 17. Back then, he used to fall asleep in the grass behind the library after track practice, arms folded under his head. I'd sat on the bench and pretended to be reading, but really I was memorizing the slope of his jaw, the curve of his shoulder, the way the light turned his lashes gold. I never told him I drew him. I never told him a lot of things, like how my heart raced when he called me M. Like how I wrote a college essay about our last day at the fair. The one where we stood too close in the Ferris wheel and everything inside me felt like lightning. But none of that mattered now. Right. 2 weeks passed. He came into the cafe almost every day. Always ordered something new. Always asked how I was. Even when the circles under my eyes said enough, he didn't flirt. Didn't push. But he lingered. I started to look forward to that point one afternoon. He asked if I wanted to walk to the park after my shift. Just a walk. Nothing else. I said yes. We walked beneath maple trees turning red at the edges. The path curved along a creek, and the air smelled like cinnamon and wood smoke. Remember that time we tried to build a raft out of old tires? He asked suddenly, laughing at the memory that I did. It was the summer before senior year. We were both bored and brave in the way teenagers are when they think life owes them magic. The raft sank 10 minutes in. You blamed me for not tying the ropes tight enough, I said. He looked at me, smiling. And you threw a shoe at me. It was a flip-flop. Barely a weapon. You were fierce back then, he said. Still are. I shrugged. Sometimes I feel more tired than fierce. Being fierce can look like just showing up. We stopped on the bridge, leaning over the railing, watching the leaves float down the water. Why did we lose touch? I asked. His voice was low. You didn't call. I didn't chase. I nodded. Yeah. There were no accusations. Just air between us. You seem so sure, he added after a while. Like you wanted to leave everything behind. I thought I had to, I said. To make something of myself. To be more. And were you? I didn't answer right away. I don't know, I said finally. I was busy. Successful. Married. But I don't think I was ever more. Just different. He nodded. Sometimes different is okay too. I started drawing again. Nothing big. Just lines and color. People at the cafe. Strangers in the park. My own hands holding a mug. One morning, I brought my sketchpad to work and hid it behind the register. On a break, I doodled Eli, hunched over his laptop by the window, rain blurring the glass behind him. He caught me. "You always draw people?" he asked. "Only the ones who stay in my head." He tilted his head. "I like that. Makes me feel important." I smirked. "Don't let it go to your head." But inside something stirred. Something like warmth. Or trouble. Then came the text. "Eli, you ever go to the open mic at the Hollow?" "Me used to." "Why?" "Eli, there's one tonight. Want to go?" "Me. You reading poetry or something?" "Eli, only if you promise not to laugh." "Me. No promises." We met outside the bar at 7. It was a hole-in-the-wall place with Edison bulbs and vinyl booths, but it had heart. The kind of place where people whispered lyrics to each other and spilled their secrets between songs. He didn't read poetry, but he listened to it like it mattered. That I watched his face more than the stage. The way he leaned forward. The way he smiled when someone was brave. When we left, it was cold. He offered me his jacket. That I hesitated, not because I didn't want it, but because I did. He saw the pause and slipped it over my shoulders anyway. "Still stubborn," he said gently. "Still sweet," I replied. We stood outside under a flickering streetlight. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. "I forgot what this feels like," I whispered. "What?" "Being seen." He didn't say anything. Just stepped a little closer. And closer still. But he didn't kiss me. He just looked at me, long and steady, and said, "Me too." That night I couldn't sleep again. But it wasn't grief this time. Or anxiety. It was possibility. Like the road I thought was ending had one more bend. The mornings grew shorter, and the mountain air got crisper as October settled over Asheville. The trees blazed gold and scarlet, a fire the wind couldn't put out. I found myself waking before the sun. The silence in the apartment sometimes louder than the memories I was trying to outrun. Mom's voice echoed in my head, soft but firm, like she was still there, reminding me that strength often comes wrapped in quiet moments. One chilly afternoon, I was organizing some old boxes in the back of the bookstore, looking for a notebook I couldn't find. Instead, I stumbled upon a bundle of letters tied with faded ribbon. The handwriting was unmistakable. Mom's. I sat cross-legged on the floor, heart pounding as I untied the ribbon and unfolded the fragile pages. They weren't addressed to me, not directly. But they were full of hope, regret, and dreams I never knew she had. One letter talked about Asheville, how she'd fallen in love with the mountains during a trip in her 20s, how she'd wanted to buy a small cabin here one day, how she'd hoped her daughter would find peace in this town. Reading her words felt like finding a secret doorway. That night Eli called. "Hey," he said, voice rough like he'd just woken up. "You busy?" "No," I said, running my fingers over the letter. "What's up? Can you come out? There's something I want to show you." Curiosity got the better of me, and within an hour, I was stepping into the cool night air again. We met at the overlook near downtown, the one where the city lights spread out like a constellation below. Eli was quieter than usual, his hands stuffed deep into his pockets. "I've been thinking," he said, "about why I came back." I waited. "My dad's sick. Lung cancer. It's bad." I didn't know what to say. "I haven't been around much," he admitted. "But I want to be." I reached out, touching his arm gently. "Maybe that's why I'm here too," I whispered. "To figure out how to be here. For real." The days that followed were a blur of emotion and small acts of courage. I dug up old dreams, picking up my pencils and paints. I started applying to art shows, local galleries. I even considered teaching a weekend class at the community center. Eli and I spent more time together, cooking dinner, walking the dog. I had finally convinced Mrs. Harper to let me adopt, and talking late into the night about everything and nothing. But the past is never far behind. One afternoon, I ran into Jessica, my ex-husband's new girlfriend. She was younger, prettier, and had that effortless confidence I hadn't felt in years. "Emily," she said, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Small world, huh?" I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. She wasn't trying to be cruel. She was just there, a living reminder of what I'd lost. The tension crept into my nights. I dreamt of Boston streets, of fights I never had the courage to finish, of a life I once thought was mine. I cried alone in the dark, then painted with rage and hope all at once. One evening, Eli found me curled up on the floor, sketchbook open but blank. "Hey," he said softly, sitting beside me. You don't have to carry it all. I shook my head. I do. I have to. He pulled me close. No, you don't. The turning point came when I received an unexpected call from a gallery owner in Charlotte. She'd seen my online portfolio and wanted to feature my work in a group show. It felt like a lifeline. But it meant leaving Asheville for a while, and leaving Eli. I didn't know how to tell him. That night, as the leaves whispered outside, I sat with Eli in the bookstore's quiet corner. I got an offer, I said, voice trembling. A chance to show my work. His eyes lit up, but then a shadow passed. That's amazing, he said slowly. But Charlotte's far. I know. He looked away. I don't want to lose you again. Maybe I'm not ready to stay, I whispered. But maybe I'm not ready to go either. He reached for my hand, squeezing it gently. Then we figure it out. Together. The road ahead was uncertain, tangled with fears and hopes. But for the first time in years, I felt the stirrings of something I thought was lost, the chance to choose my own path. And maybe, just maybe, to find my way home. The first frost came early that November. Mornings were sharp and cold, and the mountains wore a blanket of mist like a secret. I was preparing for the trip to Charlotte. Packing, planning, trying not to think about how much I'd be leaving behind. Eli was quiet, too quiet. The easy conversations we once shared now felt weighted with things unsaid. One evening, after closing the cafe, he invited me to a small dinner at his place, a modest apartment filled with architectural sketches, framed photos, and books stacked in careful piles. We ate pasta and talked about dreams, the ones that had faded and the ones still burning. Then he cleared his throat. Emily, he began, hesitation in his voice. There's something I haven't told you. I looked up, heart thudding. It's about my dad. And about me. He took a deep breath. When I was younger, before I left for college, my dad was in trouble. With the law. I blinked, surprised. He was involved with some people. Dangerous people. It was a mistake, but it changed everything. I left to get away from it, to protect myself, my family. I reached out, squeezing his hand. I'm sorry you had to carry that. He nodded. But now it's catching up with him. And maybe me. The news hit me harder than I expected. I was already bracing to leave, to start fresh, but this was a storm I hadn't seen coming. I wanted to tell Eli I was scared, that I wasn't sure if I could be the person he needed. But instead I held my silence. That week, the gallery called again. They needed final confirmation. I agonized over the decision. Charlotte was opportunity and escape wrapped in one. Eli encouraged me to go. You deserve this, he said, eyes soft but fierce. Still, the thought of leaving Asheville, of leaving him, felt like losing a part of myself. On the day before my flight, I walked through the bookstore, touching the spines of old favorites, breathing in the smell of paper and quiet. Mrs. Harper found me sitting in the reading nook. You look like you're carrying the weight of the mountains, she said, her voice gentle. I am, I admitted, she smiled. Sometimes the weight teaches us how to stand taller. I nodded, tears threatening. That night, Eli and I sat on the porch of my apartment, wrapped in blankets, watching stars blink awake. I don't want this to be goodbye, I whispered. He pulled me close. Maybe it's not, he said. The future was uncertain, tangled with challenges and fear, but for the first time in a long time I felt hope. The night after our talk on the porch, the air between us felt different, charged but tender. Like the moment just before a storm or a confession. Eli's apartment smelled of cedarwood and old books. The soft hum of a jazz record filled the room, low and intimate. He handed me a glass of red wine, fingers brushing mine, sending a quiet shiver down my spine. We talked about everything and nothing, childhood dreams, regrets, hopes, until the space between words grew heavier. His eyes held mine longer than before, and I felt the pull, the slow, inevitable draw toward something deeper. When he reached out to tuck a loose strand of hair behind my ear, my breath caught. His touch was gentle, deliberate, like he was afraid to break something fragile. I leaned into him, closing the distance. Our lips met softly, at first tentative, tasting, exploring, before the kiss deepened, urgent but tender. Every worry, every scar, seemed to fade in that moment. We moved together with a rhythm older than words, hands learning the curves and edges, promises whispered in touches. When we finally lay tangled beneath the sheets, the world outside ceased to exist. I felt safe, seen, wanted. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the curtains, warm and golden. Eli's fingers traced lazy circles on my back as we lay tangled in silence. That I knew the road ahead was still uncertain, but here, in this fragile, perfect moment, I let myself hope. The days before my trip to Charlotte slipped by in a strange mix of anticipation and melancholy. Eli and I had settled into a delicate rhythm, quiet mornings, stolen afternoons, long talks that stretched into the night. Sometimes I caught myself watching him from across the room, memorizing the way his smile softened when he thought I wasn't looking. One evening, after a late dinner at a little bistro tucked away on Biltmore Avenue, we returned to his apartment. The streetlights cast shadows through the windows, painting the walls with a patchwork of light and dark. We sank onto the couch, bodies close, the weight of silence between us finally breaking. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining with a familiarity that felt like home. "I don't want you to go," he whispered. "I know," I replied, voice thick with emotion. "But I have to." He kissed me then, slow, deep, full of all the words we couldn't say. Our bodies pressed together, a dance as old as time, as new as the first spark. Clothes slipped away, skin met skin, and every touch spoke of longing and trust. In that room, with the world shut out, I felt alive. Every fear, every doubt melted away in the heat of his embrace. We moved with tenderness and urgency, exploring, learning, healing. When dawn crept through the blinds, we lay tangled, breathless, and quietly whole. The next morning, I packed my bags with heavy hands. Mrs. Harper stopped by with a basket of homemade bread and jam. "You're stronger than you know," she said, pressing the basket into my hands. I smiled, tears prickling. Eli helped me carry my bags to the car. Before I left, he pulled me close. "Promise me you'll come back," he said. "I promise." The drive to Charlotte was a blur of falling leaves and late autumn light. I felt the weight of leaving, of stepping into the unknown, but also the spark of new beginnings. As I checked into the small apartment the gallery had arranged, my phone buzzed. A text from Eli. "Counting the days. Keep your heart safe." I smiled, feeling the fragile thread of hope stretch between us. Charlotte was a different world from Asheville. Busier streets, taller buildings, a pulse that never quite slowed. My new apartment was small but bright, with a window that caught the morning sun just right. I set up a little corner as my studio, spreading out my paints and sketchpads like a fresh start. The gallery was buzzing with activity. Other artists, curators, collectors, a mix that made me feel both excited and out of place. The first week was a whirlwind of meetings, deadlines, and nervous smiles. At night, I'd sit by the window, phone in hand, waiting for a message from Eli. Sometimes it came right away. Sometimes it didn't. The silence gnawed at me more than I wanted to admit. One evening, as I prepared for the gallery's opening reception, my phone buzzed. A message from Eli. "Can we talk? I need to tell you something." My heart stumbled. We met at a quiet cafe, the air thick with tension and unspoken words. He looked tired, the kind of tired that goes deeper than sleep deprivation. "I didn't tell you everything before," he began. "There's more to my dad's situation. Things I've been trying to protect you from." I nodded, bracing myself. "Some of the people he was involved with, they're looking for him. And now maybe for me too." I felt a cold weight settle in my chest. "I don't want you to get hurt," he said. "But I'm already scared." I whispered. We sat there, fingers intertwined, both knowing that the path ahead was dangerous. That night, sleep was elusive. I painted in the dark, brushstrokes full of fear and hope. I realized how much I'd grown to rely on Eli, not just as a lover, but as a lifeline. Days passed with whispered phone calls, coded messages, and moments stolen between gallery events. The tension was a storm we couldn't ignore. One evening, after a tense phone call, Eli showed up unexpectedly. We held each other close, words unnecessary. "I don't want to lose you," he murmured. "You won't," I promised. The gallery opening was a success, but my mind was elsewhere. As I stood beside my paintings, I knew the fight for my future was just beginning. The tension had been building for weeks, like the weight of a storm about to break. Eli's warnings grew more urgent. His phone calls shorter, his eyes haunted. One night, as I was closing the gallery, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Emily," a rough voice said. "Tell Eli to stop running." My breath caught. I called Eli immediately. "Who was that?" I asked, voice trembling. "I don't know," he admitted. "But they're serious." Fear settled between us like a shadow. That weekend, Eli took me to a quiet cabin outside the city. "We need to get away," he said. "Just for a while." The cabin was small but cozy, wood walls, a stone fireplace, and windows that framed the stars. For the first time in weeks, we breathed that we talked about everything: fears, dreams, what we wanted from life. Then, late one night, Eli pulled me close. "I don't want to lose you," he whispered against my skin, that I felt tears spill down my cheeks. We made love slowly, each touch a promise, each kiss a healing balm. In that cabin, surrounded by silence and warmth, I felt hope. But reality was waiting. The next morning, Eli got a call that changed everything. His father had been arrested. We sat in stunned silence. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: we would face it together. I looked at Eli, seeing strength I hadn't noticed before. "Whatever comes," I said, "we'll get through it." He smiled, weary but determined. And for the first time in a long time, I believed him. The news of Eli's father's arrest hit like a thunderclap, shaking the fragile calm we'd built. Suddenly, the shadows lurking behind his past weren't just whispers, they were screaming. Eli became a different man, guarded, tense, haunted by secrets he couldn't share. That I tried to be his anchor, but sometimes felt myself drifting in the storm. The gallery show buzzed around me, but my focus was fractured. One evening, as I packed my brushes, my phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. "Stay away from Eli, or you'll regret it." Fear and anger twisted inside me. I showed the message to Eli. His jaw clenched. "We're in deeper than I thought," he admitted. The tension spilled into our days and nights. Arguments flared, fueled by fear, frustration, and helplessness. But in the quiet moments, our bond remained fragile but real. One rainy night, we found ourselves wrapped in each other's arms, seeking comfort from the chaos. "I don't want to lose you," Eli whispered. "You won't," I promised, tracing his scars with my fingertips. Weeks passed. Eli's father faced trial. We stood side by side, weathering the storm together. That I realized how much I'd changed, how much I'd grown, through love and pain. And I knew that no matter what came next, we would face it as one. The courtroom was cold and unforgiving, its walls echoing with the voices of prosecutors and witnesses. Eli stood beside me, his jaw set tight, eyes dark with worry but determined. His father's trial stretched on for weeks, a heavy cloud over our lives. That I threw myself into my art, finding solace in colors and shapes that spoke what words could not. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Eli and I sat on the porch of my Charlotte apartment. The city lights shimmered below, a reminder of the world still moving despite our chaos. "I'm scared," he admitted softly. "Me too," I said, squeezing his hand. "But we're not alone." Work at the gallery was both a distraction and a challenge. That I met other artists, some inspiring, others competitive. One, a charismatic painter named Lucas, showed interest in my work and in me. His easy charm was a stark contrast to Eli's quiet intensity. That I stirred something unexpected inside me: confusion. Eli noticed. One night, after a tense conversation, he pulled me close. "I don't want to lose you to this," he whispered. "You won't," I replied, though doubt lingered. The path ahead was unclear, filled with difficult decisions and new beginnings, but I knew one thing: I had to find my own strength, no matter what. The tension between Eli and me grew heavier with each passing day. Lucas's attention was a distraction I hadn't expected. His bright laughter and easy compliments a balm to my weary heart. One evening, after a gallery event, Lucas invited me to a late dinner. That we talked about art, life, dreams, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: lightness. But when I looked at my phone and saw a message from Eli, "Can we talk?" the lightness turned to guilt. That night, I met Eli in the dim light of my apartment. His eyes searched mine, full of something raw and vulnerable. "I feel like I'm losing you," he said softly. "I'm scared," I admitted, "of losing myself." We held each other, the silence speaking what words could not. I realized then that love wasn't just about holding on. Sometimes it was about letting go. Days later, Eli's father's trial came to an end, verdict pending, the future still uncertain. That I stood beside Eli, ready to face whatever came, but knowing I had to find my own path too. The day the verdict came, the courthouse was packed with a silence heavier than words. Eli gripped my hand as the judge read the decision. His father was found guilty. A mix of relief and despair washed over us. Relief that the trial was over, despair for what it meant. Eli's world tilted, and I felt it too. We retreated to the quiet of my apartment, the weight of what lay ahead pressing down. I don't know what happens next, Eli admitted, voice breaking. You don't have to face it alone. I whispered that we clung to each other, two broken souls seeking solace, but that night, I realized love wasn't enough, that I needed to find myself again. The gallery offered me a chance to travel, a solo exhibition in New York. It was a dream and a challenge. Eli encouraged me to go, but the thought of leaving him, of possibly losing him, terrified me. That I stood at a crossroads, stay and fight for love or step into the unknown for myself. The night before my flight, Eli and I sat on the porch wrapped in blankets. Whatever you choose, he said, I want you to be happy. Tears spilled down my cheeks. Thank you, I whispered. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time I was ready to walk it, on my own terms. New York greeted me with its usual chaos, honking cars, flashing lights, and a restless energy that pulsed through every street. My apartment was small, a cozy nook above a bustling cafe in the East Village. Setting up my art felt like planting a flag in new territory. The gallery opening was a whirlwind, faces from all over, curious eyes and whispers of appreciation. But in the quiet moments, I felt the ache of distance, from Eli, from home, from everything familiar. Days blurred into nights filled with new friendships, unexpected opportunities, and the constant hum of the city. That I explored streets lined with murals, hidden bookstores, and late-night jazz clubs. Each step was both exhilarating and terrifying. A message from Eli came one evening. How's the city treating you? I smiled, fingers trembling as I typed back. It's a world apart. I miss you. His reply was quick. Me too. But I'm proud of you. But the city wasn't just a dreamscape. Work was demanding, competition fierce, pressure mounted to prove myself, not just as an artist, but as someone worthy of this new life. One night after a long day, I wandered into a small gallery showcasing emerging artists. There I met Maya, a photographer with a sharp eye and sharper wit. She saw my sketches and smiled. You've got something, she said. But you need to own it. Her words stuck with me. The road ahead was filled with promise and doubt, but I was ready to face it, one brushstroke at a time. Maya was unlike anyone I'd met. Fierce, honest, unapologetically herself. We spent hours talking about art, dreams, and the compromises we'd made to survive. She challenged me, pushed me to break out of my comfort zone and own my story. One evening, after a gallery event, she pulled me aside. Emily, she said, voice low but intense. Don't waste your pain. Use it. Her words hit me hard. We started collaborating, her photography, my paintings, our styles blended in unexpected ways, creating pieces that felt raw and alive. Working with Maya reignited something inside me, a fire I thought was smothered. But even as I flourished, Eli's shadow lingered. Our texts grew less frequent, strained by distance and unspoken fears. One late night, I hesitated before calling him. His voice was tired but warm. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. I wish I was there. Me too, he replied. The city was changing me, that I was changing, and the path forward was no longer clear. The cold bite of early winter wrapped around the city, but inside the studio Maya and I transformed blank canvases into stories. Our collaboration was more than just art, it was a conversation without words, a dance of emotions. One evening, after a long session, Maya looked at me with something raw in her eyes. Emily, you're holding back, she said softly. Why? I hesitated, the truth heavy on my tongue. I'm scared, I admitted. Scared of what I want, scared of what I might lose. She reached out, brushing a stray hair from my face. Sometimes, she whispered, we have to take the risk to find ourselves. Her touch lingered longer than expected. A flutter ignited in my chest, unfamiliar but not unwelcome. The days that followed were a blur of stolen glances, subtle touches, and moments charged with possibility, but each time I thought about Eli, a pang of guilt stabbed through me. I was caught between two worlds, the past I loved and the future I was beginning to crave. One night, Maya kissed me soft, hesitant. Real.it shattered something inside me and pieced it back together differently. I realized that love, like art, was messy and beautiful, and maybe, just maybe, I was ready to embrace both. The morning after Maya's kiss, the world felt both sharper and softer at once. I woke tangled in sheets and thoughts of Eli's steady presence miles away, and Maya's daring spark so close. We spent the day painting side by side, colors bleeding into one another like the tangled feelings in my heart. Every glance between us carried unspoken questions. Late that night, my phone lit up with a message from Eli. I miss you. Can we talk? My fingers hesitated, heart pounding that I knew I needed to be honest, but the words caught in my throat. When we finally spoke, it was raw and real. I don't know where I belong anymore, I confessed. Eli's voice softened. I don't want to hold you back. I don't want to hurt you. I whispered that we promised to be truthful, to face whatever came, together or apart. Days turned into weeks, and the tension between my two worlds grew. I was falling for Maya, her laughter, her fierce spirit, but Eli's memory anchored me. One evening, Maya took my hand, eyes searching mine. Whatever you decide, she said, I'm here. And I realized that love wasn't about choosing sides, that it was about finding yourself. The days felt heavy, thick with unspoken words and restless hearts. I wandered the city streets, searching for clarity in the chaos of my thoughts. Maya's presence was a constant comfort, her laughter, her touch, but Eli's voice echoed in my mind like a haunting melody. One cold evening, as snowflakes began to fall, I found myself standing at a crossroads, literally and figuratively, that I had to decide what kind of life I wanted. I called Eli first. Our conversation was honest and painful. I love you, I said, voice trembling. I love you too, he replied. But I'm not the same person I was before. He understood. I want you to be happy with me or without me. Then I met Maya at our favorite cafe. I don't want to lose what we have, I told her. She smiled, eyes bright. Whatever you choose, I'm grateful for you. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, heart pounding. That I picked up my sketchbook and began to draw lines and shadows reflecting the storm inside me. I didn't have all the answers, but for the first time, I felt ready to find them. The morning light poured through my window, soft and hopeful. That I had made my choice. Not easy, not without pain, but necessary. That I called Eli first. We need to let each other go, I said, voice steady but heavy. He was silent for a moment, then whispered, I want you to be free. We said goodbye with tears and promises to remember. Then I met Maya, who held me like a lifeline. Together we stepped into the unknown, unsure but hopeful. My art blossomed, fueled by love and pain. The city embraced me, its chaos, its beauty. Sometimes I thought of Eli, the boy who had been my home, but now I was building a new 1.1 brushstroke at a time.